Section 18 of the Adventures of Gerard. This Librivox Recording is in the public domain. How the Brigadier bore himself at Waterloo. The story of the Forest Inn. Continued. Where the track comes out from amid the trees there is a small cabaret where woodcutters and waggoners drink their wine. Outside the door of this I reined up my horse for an instant while I took in the scene which was before me. Some few miles away I saw a second great forest, that of St. Lambert, out of which the Emperor had seen the troops advancing. It was easy to see, however, why there had been so long a delay in their leaving one wood and reaching the other, because between the two ran the deep defile of the Lanais, which had to be crossed. Sure enough, a long column of troops, horse, foot, and guns, was streaming down one side of it and swarming up the other, while the advance guard was already among the trees on either side of me. A battery of horse artillery was coming along the road, and I was about to gallop up to it and ask the officer in command if he could tell me where I should find the Marshal, when suddenly I observed that, though the gunners were dressed in blue, they had not the dolman trimmed with red Brandenburgs as our own horse gunners wear it. Amazed at the sight, I was looking at these soldiers to left and right when a hand touched my thigh, and there was the landlord, who had rushed from his inn. "Madman!" he cried. "Why are you here? What are you doing?" "I am seeking Marshal Grouchy." "You are in the heart of the Prussian army. Turn and fly." "Impossible. This is Grouchy's corps." "How do you know?" "Because the Emperor has said it." "Then the Emperor has made a terrible mistake. I tell you that a patrol of Silesian Hussars has this instant left me. Did you not see them in the wood?" "I saw Hussars." "They are the enemy." "Where is Grouchy?" "He is behind. They have passed him." "Then how can I go back? If I go forward I may see him yet. I must obey my orders and find him wherever he is." The man reflected for an instant. "Quick, quick!" he cried, seizing my bridle. "Do what I say, and you may yet escape. They have not observed you yet. Come with me, and I will hide you until they pass." Behind his house there was a low stable, and into this he thrust Violette. Then he half led and half dragged me into the kitchen of the inn. It was a bare, brick-floored room. A stout, red-faced woman was cooking cutlets at the fire. "What's the matter now?" she asked, looking with a frown from me to the innkeeper. "Who is this you've brought in?" "It is a French officer, Marie. We cannot let the Prussians take him." "Why not?" "Why not? Sacred name of a dog! Was I not myself a soldier of Napoleon? Did I not win a musket of honour among the Vedettes of Guard? Shall I see a comrade taken before my eyes? Marie, we must save him." But the lady looked at me with most unfriendly eyes. "Pierre Charras," she said, "you will not rest until you have your house burned over your head. Do you not understand, you blockhead, that if you fought for Napoleon it was because Napoleon ruled Belgium? He does so no longer. The Prussians are our allies, and this is our enemy. I will have no Frenchman in this house. Give him up." The innkeeper scratched his head and looked at me in despair, but it was very evident to me that it was neither for France nor for Belgium that this woman cared, but that it was the safety of her own house that was nearest her heart. "Madame," said I, with all the dignity and assurance I could command, "the Emperor is defeating the English, and the French army will be here before evening. If you have used me well you will be rewarded, and if you have denounced me you will be punished, and your house will certainly be burned by the Provost Marshal." She was shaken by this, and I hastened to complete my victory by other methods. "Surely," said I, "it is impossible that anyone so beautiful can also be hard-hearted. You will not refuse me the refuge which I need." She looked at my whiskers, and I saw that she was softened. I took her hand, and in 2 minutes we were on such terms that her husband swore roundly that he would give me up himself if I pressed the matter farther. "Besides, the road is full of Prussians," he cried. Quick, quick, into the loft!" "Quick, quick, into the loft!" echoed his wife, and together they hurried me toward a ladder which led to a trap door in the ceiling. There was loud knocking at the door, so you can think that it was not long before my spurs went twinkling through the hole and the board was dropped behind me. An instant later I heard the voices of the Germans in the rooms below me. The place in which I found myself was a single long attic, the ceiling of which was formed by the roof of the house. It ran over the whole of one side of the inn, and through the cracks in the flooring I could look down either upon the kitchen, the sitting room, or the bar, at my pleasure. There were no windows, but the place was in the last stage of disrepair, and several missing slates upon the roof gave me light and the means of observation. The place was heaped with lumber fodder at one end and a huge pile of empty bottles at the other. There was no door or window save the hole through which I had come up. I sat upon the heap of hay for a few minutes to steady myself and to think out my plans. It was very serious that the Prussians should arrive upon the field of battle earlier than our reserves. But there appeared to be only one corps of them, and a corps more or less makes little difference to such a man as the Emperor. He could afford to give the English all this and beat them still. The best way in which I could serve him, since Grouchy was behind, was to wait here until they were past and then to resume my journey, to see the Marshal and to give him his orders. If he advanced upon the rear of the English instead of following the Prussians, all would be well. The fate of France depended upon my judgment and my nerve. It was not the first time, my friends, as you are well aware, and you know the reasons that I had to trust that neither nerve nor judgment would ever fail me. Certainly the Emperor had chosen the right man for his mission. The Prince of Messengers he had called me. I would earn my title. It was clear that I could do nothing until the Prussians had passed, so I spent my time in observing them. I have no love for these people, but I am compelled to say that they kept excellent discipline, for not a man of them entered the inn, though their lips were caked with dust and they were ready to drop with fatigue. Those who had knocked at the door were bearing an insensible comrade, and having left him they returned at once to the ranks. Several others were carried in the same fashion and laid in the kitchen, while a young surgeon, little more than a boy, remained behind in charge of them. Having observed them through the cracks in the floor, I next turned my attention to the holes in the roof, from which I had an excellent view of all that was passing outside. The Prussian corps was still streaming past. It was easy to see that they had made a terrible march and had little food, for the faces of the men were ghastly, and they were plastered from head to foot with mud from their falls upon the foul and slippery roads. Yet, spent as they were, their spirit was excellent, and they pushed and hauled at the gun carriages when the wheels sank up to the axles in the mire, and the weary horses were floundering knee-deep, unable to draw them through. The officers rode up and down the column, encouraging the more active with words of praise and the laggards with blows from the flat of their swords. All the time from over the wood in front of them there came the tremendous roar of the battle, as if all the rivers on earth had united in one gigantic cataract, booming and crashing in a mighty fall. Like the spray of the cataract was the long veil of smoke which rose high over the trees. The officers pointed to it with their swords, and with hoarse cries from their parched lips the mud-stained men pushed onward to the battle. For an hour I watched them pass, and I reflected that their vanguard must have come into touch with Marbot's vedettes, and that the Emperor knew already of their coming. "You are going very fast up the road, my friends, but you will come down it a great deal faster," said I to myself, and I consoled myself with the thought. But an adventure came to break the monotony of this long wait. I was seated beside my loophole and congratulating myself that the corps was nearly past and that the road would soon be clear for my journey, when suddenly I heard a loud altercation break out in French in the kitchen. "You shall not go!" cried a woman's voice. "I tell you that I will," said a man's, and there was a sound of scuffling. In an instant I had my eye to the crack in the floor. There was my stout lady like a faithful watchdog, at the bottom of the ladder, while the young German surgeon, white with anger, was endeavouring to come up it. Several of the German soldiers who had recovered from their prostration were sitting about on the kitchen floor and watching the quarrel with stolid but attentive faces. The landlord was nowhere to be seen. "There is no liquor there," said the woman. "I do not want liquor. I want hay or straw for these men to lie upon. Why should they lie on the bricks when there is straw overhead?" "There is no straw." "What is up there?" "Empty bottles." "Nothing else?" "No." For a moment it looked as if the surgeon would abandon his intention, but one of the soldiers pointed up to the ceiling. I gathered from what I could understand of his words that he could see the straw sticking out between the planks. In vain the woman protested. Two of the soldiers were able to get upon their feet and to drag her aside, while the young surgeon ran up the ladder, pushed open the trap door, and climbed into the loft. As he swung the door back I slipped behind it, but as luck would have it he shut it again behind him, and there we were left standing face to face. Never have I seen a more astonished young man. "A French officer!" he gasped. "Hush!" said I. "Hush! Not a word above a whisper." I had drawn my sword. "I am not a combatant," he said. "I am a doctor. Why do you threaten me with your sword? I am not armed." "I do not wish to hurt you, but I must protect myself. I am in hiding here." "A spy?" "A spy does not wear such a uniform as this, nor do you find spies on the staff of an army." "I rode by mistake into the heart of this Prussian corps, and I concealed myself here in the hope of escaping when they are past. I will not hurt you if you do not hurt me. But if you do not swear that you will be silent as to my presence, you will never go down alive from this attic." "You can put up your sword, sir," said the surgeon, and I saw a friendly twinkle in his eyes. "I am a Pole by birth, and I have no ill feeling to you or your people. I will do my best for my patients, but I will do no more. Capturing Hussars is not one of the duties of a surgeon. With your permission I will now descend with this truss of hay to make a couch for these poor fellows below." I had intended to exact an oath from him, but it is my experience that if a man will not speak the truth he will not swear the truth, so I said no more. The surgeon opened the trap door, threw out enough hay for his purpose, and then descended the ladder, letting down the door behind him. I watched him anxiously when he rejoined his patients, and so did my good friend the landlady, but he said nothing and busied himself with the needs of his soldiers. By this time I was sure that the last of the army corps was past, and I went to my loophole confident that I should find the coast clear, save perhaps for a few stragglers whom I could disregard. The first corps was indeed past, and I could see the last files of the infantry disappearing into the wood. But you can imagine my disappointment when out of the forest of St. Lambert I saw a second corps emerging as numerous as the first. There could be no doubt that the whole Prussian army, which we thought we had destroyed at Lagny, was about to throw itself upon our right wing, while Marshal Grouchy had been coaxed away upon some fool's errand. The roar of guns, much nearer than before, told me that the Prussian batteries which had passed me were already in action. Imagine my terrible position. Hour after hour was passing. The sun was sinking toward the west. And yet this cursed inn in which I lay hid was like a little island amid a rushing stream of furious Prussians. It was all important I should reach Marshal Grouchy, and yet I could not show my nose without being made prisoner. You can think how I cursed and tore my hair. How little do we know what is in store for us. Even while I raged against my ill fortune, that same fortune was reserving me for a far higher task than to carry a message to Grouchy. A task which could not have been mine had I not been held tight in that little inn on the edge of the forest of Paris. 2 Russian corps had passed and a third was coming up when I heard a great fuss and the sound of several voices in the sitting room. By altering my position I was able to look down and see what was going on. End of section 18.